SpaceX mysteries are about to be solved as the Pad B Starship construction site reveals its last secrets. With the flame diverter installed, the launch table is the last major piece of this oversized puzzle to fall into place, and things are moving. China is aiming for a 2029 crewed moon mission. A deep dive analysis on the current state of things. Have NASA and its partners lost the second space race already? My name is Felix, welcome to What About It, let's dive right in. Starship updates. Remember when we speculated about the Pad B OLM being mobile so that SpaceX could quickly swap it out for repairs after launches? SpaceX is looking for ways to achieve its crazy goals of one Starship launch per day and even faster. And it looks like this idea is not yet off the table. We have spotted this on its way to the Pad B construction site. Take a closer look, the pattern of the mounting holes is the clue here. They match the bolt pattern found on the current supports, which it is mounted on at the build site. This rendering by Chrome Kiwi shows how the legs will be mounted below the launch table. While this arrangement confirms a fixed launch mount, the choice to use a bolted connection still opens the possibility to remove the launch table for future refurbishment if needed. And while we are at Pad B, let's have a look at the state of the trench. By now, the flame diverter is fully installed. What a monumental sight! Now we need water, lots and lots of water. Fortunately, SpaceX has that covered. The installation of piping for the massive deluge system is well underway. Let's have a look at some pictures and videos of the Pad B construction site and play a game. What is the one common thing you can see in all of these pictures? If your answer is green piping, you are right. These huge green pipes are delivering the incredible amount of water needed for the deluge system and the water-cooled launch table. To give you a better idea of how this piping system works, let's take a closer look. In his work, Chrome Kiwi shows that the tanks are split into two groups. One group of 5 tanks feeds the deluge system, so all the water that is spraying out on top of the launch mount. The other group of 4 substantially larger tanks feeds directly into the flame diverter. SpaceX needs incredible amounts of water for these Starship launches to dampen vibrations and dissipate heat coming from the 33 and soon 35 Raptor engines ignited on every launch. Meanwhile, Booster 17 has returned from the test site at Massey's after cryo-proof testing on the night of April 15th. B-17 is now parked in the rocket garden right next to its flight-proven colleague Booster 12-1. And one more booster caught our attention as B-14-2 was fitted with its hot staging ring. This could be one of the last steps of the preparation for Flight 9. Taking a closer look at the ring reveals a significant difference from all the hot staging rings before this one. It has a lot more stringers or bracings for structural support. This makes the part heavier, but also much sturdier against any sort of compression force. Now, compression force is exerted on the ring primarily during the ascent phase. Did SpaceX have problems with this? Is this part of the fix for the problems SpaceX had on Flights 7 and 8? Do you have a theory? Let us know in the comments. The destructive work on the high bay continues day and night. With the weakening of the walls progressing at this pace, we won't see this checkered building for much longer. With all these things happening right now, there is so much to see at Starbase from the air. Check out redlineheli.com/Felix for a once-in-a-lifetime experience and $25 off flying in a helicopter above Starbase. The Redline helicopter team is waiting for you. They'll show you the same views our photographer Jordan gets on his Starbase flights. Give it a try. Let's get to the big topic for today. All this activity at Starbase is directly connected to happenings half a planet orbit away. By now, we've entered a brand new space race. Just like in the 1960s, the moon is one of the goals. But this time it is about Mars as well, albeit in a second stage. Most of the time, we're focused on players who are very vocal and in the public eye, such as SpaceX with its Starship and NASA with its Artemis program, which again heavily involves SpaceX technology. But on the other side of the planet, one nation is pursuing the same goals. China has already proven that it is a serious contender in human spaceflight. Now we see more concrete planning on their part, showing that their target date for a crewed moon landing is as early as 2029. That opens up the question of whether the West can even win this. American lunar ambitions can no longer afford delays. It is imperative to act now. If NASA wants to be first again, the agency needs to up its game. With Artemis 2 projected to launch in April next year and the estimated launch cadence of SLS at about 2 years, US astronauts could set foot on the moon in 2028. But that is only possible if everything goes perfectly from here on out. But that is not a very comfortable position to be in. In fact, it's the same situation we had in 1969. Back then, NASA won against Russia. Will they repeat this against China? Perfection on NASA's end won't be enough, though. For a successful moon landing, they need a landing craft. For that, NASA is looking at 2 alternatives: Blue Origin's Blue Moon lander and SpaceX's HLS Starship. But neither is even close to being ready for its mission. Let's have a look at both systems and what we know about them so far. Have we already lost the race, or is there a real chance? This is Blue Origin's concept, Blue Moon. To be precise, it's Blue Moon Mark II. So far, it is still in early development. Blue Origin intends to initially gain operational experience through their Blue Moon Mark I cargo transporter. A mock-up of this lander was unveiled in late 2023, along with some specifications. According to Blue Origin, the Blue Moon Mark I is a single-use lunar cargo lander designed to remain on the moon's surface. That's not a crew option. Before we continue with an answer to whether the US can win this space race, let's do a short lesson on fact-checking. Okay, is a Chinese spacecraft practicing dogfighting maneuvers in orbit? A headline like this can spread misinformation fast. That is why I use a trusted tool to cut through the noise: ground news. Let's take a closer look at ground.news/y or scan the QR code on screen. Such news paints a threatening scenario, but if you dare to take a second look, you will soon find that often there are many sides to every story. Reports suggest China is training with combat satellites, fueling fears of space warfare. Ground News uncovered over 70 sources, with more than half rated as highly factual. That still leaves a third with questionable factuality. Reading through the headline, you can see some leaning towards sensationalism, building up a sense of real threat in the reader. Like this one: Space Force says a Chinese spacecraft is practicing dogfighting maneuvers in orbit. Others say China slams US dogfighting satellites claim as budget-driven ploy. One event, 2 completely different narratives. Stay ahead of biased headlines with Ground News. Follow your favorite topics like space or aviation to stay up to date on breaking news you otherwise might have missed. It's ad-free, subscriber-funded, and aligns with what we do at Y, promoting better understanding through informed discussion. Go to ground.news/WAI or scan the QR code for 40% off unlimited access. Download the mobile app and use the offer code WAI for the same plan I use. That's ground.news/Y. Get the whole story. Alright, all bias and fact-checked up, let's continue Blue Origin Moonlander. It is designed to offer safe, reliable, and cost-effective access to the lunar environment, with the capacity to transport up to 3 metric tons of cargo anywhere on the moon. This is made possible by utilizing the 7-meter fairing of the New Glenn rocket. Initially, the plan was to launch the Pathfinder mission in March 2025. But these plans had to be pushed forward as the first launch of New Glenn had to be delayed. With Blue Origin treating the first 3 flights as development flights. As stated by Dave Limp, chief executive of Blue Origin, we will not see Blue Moon launching before New Glenn Flight 4 at the absolute earliest. You should not get your hopes up for a Blue Moon launch earlier than late this year. Mk1SN001 is a demonstration mission to test critical systems, including the BE-7 engine, cryogenic fluid power and propulsion systems, avionics, continuous downlink communications, and precision landing within 100 meters of site accuracy. This mission is designed to pave the way for future uncrewed NASA human landing system missions for the Artemis program and make Mk1SN002 and beyond available to payload customers. Dave Limp expressed that he's still very confident that Blue Origin can get to the moon this year. He also pointed out that Blue Moon Mark I would be the largest spacecraft yet to land on the moon. The human version, Blue Moon Mark II, will not go on its own Pathfinder mission before at least 2 successful Mark I landings have been completed. Meanwhile, Mark II is developed by Blue Origin's so-called national team, including Lockheed Martin, Draper, Boeing, Astrobotic, and Honeybee Robotics. What we don't know is just how far along this development has progressed, but it is safe to say that no demo mission can be expected before mid to late 2026. But it is also not planned to be used before Artemis 5. Tick-tock. This is getting late. So no flight of an uncrewed version at least until the end of this year, but likely in 2026. 2 landings of the uncrewed variant on the moon before they even consider launching a crewed variant. It is safe to say that it will be very tough to achieve a crewed landing on the moon with this before 2029. Before we go into how far along SpaceX is in reaching the moon on time, our channel metrics show over 4 million returning monthly viewers who have not subscribed yet. Help improve the channel and double check that you've hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with our updates. Like this video if you appreciate the content and become a wise supporter for extra content. Secure your access to up to 7 picture galleries per week, satellite, aerial and ground photos and 3D animations, chat with me and gain more insights on the topic you love. The entire team is waiting for you, you rock! So what about the other contender, the SpaceX Starship HLS? This behemoth is set to be used for NASA's Artemis 3 mission, returning humans to the moon on the first human surface expedition since 1972. Contrary to what we don't see with Blue Origin, Starship's development has been very much under the public's eye. While all the Starships that have had test flights so far are the low Earth orbit variant, not even designed to fly to the moon, we'll hopefully soon see other models. Fingers crossed, so far there is nothing. Looking at Starship HLS, you'll notice it neither has a heat shield nor fins. Both are unnecessary as the moon has no atmosphere. On the other hand, it has legs, a feature missing on its orbital counterparts. HLS will also feature special hot gas thrusters used during landings on the moon. The Raptors will not be used for the landing as they would kick up an excessive amount of lunar regolith. But they'll still be used for the initial deorbit burn. So far what we've seen of HLS are mostly renders of interior and exterior features, but closely to the mega bay we can see this curious looking nose cone in the rocket garden. It once belonged to Ship 22, and while the rest of the ship has long been scrapped, its nose cone was repurposed to become an early mock-up for the HLS, helping designers with the planning of this variant's interior. We've also seen images of NASA and SpaceX actively testing elevators needed to get the lunar crew down to the surface and airlocks. So there is more than what we can see at Starbase in the open. While this is encouraging, it certainly isn't much. Interestingly, 2 more Starship variants are needed to even get HLS to the moon. Those will have to be developed at the same time. I'm of course talking about the tanker and the propellant depot. Why are they needed? Simple. A lunar starship is heavy. It's supposed to fly to the moon, pick up the astronauts in lunar orbit, land them on the surface and come back up. That's more fuel needed than what's left after a Starship has launched from Earth. The fuel depot will likely look a lot like SN9, often referred to as Eileen. It fell over in the high bay, Eileen. Get it? Of course, the propellant depot will likely be longer than Eileen, but it will be just as featureless, having no fins or heat shield. The tanker ships, on the other hand, will have both. They will need to be rapidly reusable. To extend their tank capacity, there are 2 options. SpaceX can either use the payload area to install large extra tanks, or they opt to extend the existing tanks to utilize almost the entire interior volume of the spacecraft. While it was initially expected to see some of the new variants in 2025, a statement by Elon Musk from February 28th this year changed the outlook. He stated, full and immediate reflight of Starship along with orbital refilling probably happens next year. So no visible prototypes yet and extensions to the timeline at Team SpaceX as well. SpaceX is speeding up its efforts at Starbase in Texas and LC-39A in Florida with the simultaneous construction of massively improved launch infrastructure. But is it enough to beat China? Testing will be ramped up greatly once these become operational. At the same time, new production facilities are being constructed at both locations. Yes, it is still very much possible to see a finished HLS in time for Artemis 3. But SpaceX will need to at least keep up its pace to build, test and perfect its lunar landing system before the end of 2028. I'm looking at this watch a lot. Time is ticking. And it is ticking just as fast for China. If the country wants to succeed in its national effort, it also has a lot on its plate. Let's see what we can find out about the state of their space exploration ambitions. How close are they to the US? Are they behind or ahead? From this recent presentation we can see their 2029 target and also learn about the flight hardware they intend to use. I'm talking about the elusive Long March 10A, also known as the Chinese moon rocket. With a length of 67.4 meters and a diameter of 5 meters, Long March 10A will be employed to launch a new generation cruise spacecraft to the Tiangong space station in low Earth orbit. The rocket can lift 14,200 kilograms to low Earth orbit with first stage recovery, at least on paper. The Long March 10 Lunar variant will be stretched to feature a core extended to 3 segments. In this configuration it will be 92 meters tall and be able to launch 27 tons into translunar orbit. That is exactly the same payload capacity to the moon as NASA's Block 1 crewed SLS variant. But it is supposed to be partly reusable. 2 Long March 10 launches will be used to get astronauts to the moon and back. 2 spacecraft, the crewed Mengzhu spacecraft and the Lanyu lunar lander, will rendezvous in lunar orbit. 2 taikonauts will then transfer to the Lanyu lander and descend to the lunar surface for a 6-hour stay before rejoining their third colleague who remains in orbit. That is very Apollo-like. SpaceX's HLS Starship, if done in time, should provide way more than that. If done in time. With its maiden flight expected for 2026, the Long March 10A has already performed a successful static fire test in June 2024. Don't think that China is taking this seriously? Wake up and take a look at this. This is the pad meant for Long March 10 and it looks like it will be finished this year. Look at all the trucks moving in and out. An active construction site is an understatement. It's a massive concrete and technology stuffed mega construction. This isn't a side project and it is far along. China is rushing and everyone knows that they are good at rushing. The question of whether the US can beat China to the moon is very real. A lot of resources are being allocated to the Chinese side of the argument. What do you think? With all the uncertainty surrounding Artemis and NASA, and with SpaceX and Blue Origin not yet showing any real lunar hardware, can this race be won? Let me know in the comments, I want to hear your opinion. And this story isn't over yet. That's just half of it. Next time we'll take a look at the private side of Chinese lunar ambitions. Make sure to tune in. Astronomers may be closer than ever to finding signs of life beyond Earth, and the latest evidence is coming from a planet 124 light years away. And guess what? We've actually been watching this one for a while. A team at the University of Cambridge has been studying the atmosphere of K2-18b, an exoplanet more than twice the size of Earth that orbits a small red dwarf star. Using data from NASA's James Webb Space Telescope, the team detected chemical signatures that, on Earth, are linked to living organisms. Specifically dimethyl sulfide and dimethyl disulfide. Here at home, these gases are typically produced by marine plankton and bacteria. I mean, not here at home. What makes this exciting is that Webb is powerful enough to analyze the light from K2-18b as it filters through the planet's atmosphere during its orbit. That light carries chemical fingerprints, and this time the signal was stronger than expected. According to researchers, the concentrations of these gases could be thousands of times higher than what's found in Earth's atmosphere. If the origin is biological, that would suggest life is not just present but widespread. Can we just pause for a second? We can see light passing through the atmosphere of a planet 120 light years away. Think about that next time you're questioning whether NASA is doing a good job. But are these findings correct, or is this just another "we found aliens" news story? Before we get too excited, this is not a confirmed detection. Right now, the results are at what scientists call 3 sigma, or about a 99.7% confidence level. That may sound high, but it is not enough for a claim of discovery. My wife Stefanie would agree, not even close. Researchers need a 5 sigma level, which means a 99.9999% level of certainty. The team hopes to gather enough data to reach that threshold within 1 or 2 years. It is the second time Webb has picked up possible biosignatures on this planet, and each time the signal has improved, and that consistency is what has scientists paying closer attention. K2-18b itself is still something of a mystery, as some models suggest it could have a deep ocean beneath its atmosphere, while others argue it may be a rocky world or even a mini gas giant with no surface at all. One theory points to the absence of ammonia in the atmosphere as a clue that there could be liquid water below, but there are uncertainties. A molten surface could explain the same chemical signals, which would make the planet far less hospitable. The floor is lava. That would be cool too, but how can we be sure? To move forward, scientists are now trying to recreate these gases in the lab through non-biological processes. If they can show that the chemicals can form naturally without life, it would provide another possible explanation. But if they cannot, the biological interpretation becomes harder to ignore. The Cambridge team says that they are being cautious but hopeful. If confirmed, this would be the first clear evidence that life exists elsewhere in the universe. Even one example would suggest that life could be common, not rare, and that the galaxy might be filled with habitable worlds we have only just begun to notice. Again, they have to be 99.999% sure. I mean, would we expect anything less? That is it for today. Before watching the bloopers, remember to smash that like button, subscribe for more. This is what fuels the algorithm, and this is how you can help us for free. Check out our epic shirts in your favorite Space Nerd store, a new Raptor design and our brand new Starship Block 2 design and a new Mechazilla design are all up. Link is in the description and in the card you should see now. Also, check out our print store at shop.whataboutit.space to buy a picture for your favorite wall. A significant amount of every purchase goes directly to our photographer Jordan. And if you want to learn more about SpaceX's history and why Starship is skipping leg day, watch this video next to continue your journey. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next episode. Which it is. Rocket animation. Oh. It's a living organism. Yes.